A very warm welcome to the Service Board and to all the delegates. What we're going to do today is dive back into the very heart of our organization to explore our foundational principles. Look back at our origins, not just for history's sake, but to really help us chart our path forward. So think of this as a living white paper, a chance for all of us to reconnect with the very seeds of service.
So let's start right here, with our original emblem. Just think about it. Before there was a network, before there were any lists of hosts, there was just this symbol. It's a vision, right? A world connected not by borders, but by open doors, and that simple promise of peace. It's such a powerful reminder of where this whole journey began.
And then you have this, the single absolutely beautiful quote from our founder, Bob Luitweiler. It sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? This tells you everything you need to know. It tells us that service was never, ever just about finding a place to stay. No. From the very beginning, it was conceived as something much deeper, a kind of pilgrimage, a journey right into the soul of humanity.
So here's how we're going to trace that path today. We'll start with the birth of the idea, then watch Bob's journey from traveler to seeker. We'll look at the key lessons he learned on the road, see how that idea turned into a reality, and then finally, we'll talk about what this living vision means for all of us, right here, right now.
All right, let's dive in. It all begins not with a tourist looking for sights, but with a young man on a really profound quest for understanding. And here he is. This is a young Bob Luitweiler, around 1948. Now, you have to remember who he was at this point. He was a conscientious objector, deeply inspired by Gandhian principles. And he made a choice. He decided he was going to understand the world, not by reading about it in a book, but by experiencing it through life itself and through the people he met on his journey.
And let's be super clear about this. His mission was not about sightseeing. This wasn't some gap year adventure. He was searching for the root causes of the things that tear us apart: injustice, alienation, prejudice, the things that ultimately lead to war. In fact, he actually called his journey a self-assigned course in social dynamics. He was on a mission to figure out what makes a community thrive and what makes it fall apart.
Okay, so as Bob kept traveling, something really fundamental started to shift inside him. Let's talk about how his whole perspective on the world and his place in it was about to be completely transformed.
And this quote, this says it all. You can literally feel the transformation in those words. He's talking about shedding his own prejudices, breaking free from a single, narrow point of view, and starting to see the world with a much deeper, more empathetic perspective. He was becoming a citizen of the world.
And this transformation didn't just happen overnight. You can actually see it in stages. First, he went from being a passive tourist, just kind of looking at things, to being an active traveler, someone who was really searching for ideas. Then, he moved from just observing cultures to actually participating in them. But maybe the biggest leap of all? He stopped seeing strangers and started finding mentors in the most humble and unexpected people.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because now we're getting to those specific moments, the actual encounters on the road where the first seeds of the service idea were actually planted.
So, check this out. The very first seed came from a conversation with a young German student, Gertrude Hertling, and she asked him this question that just cut right to the heart of the matter. It was a powerful plea that highlighted this huge problem of isolation after the war, and it was a problem that was just crying out for a solution. And then came the second seed. Bob ran into a fellow American student who'd been staying in Sweden. But here's the thing, this student was hosted by a very wealthy reactionary family. And because of that one experience, he left with a totally skewed negative view of the whole country. It was this perfect, terrible example of how the wrong kind of hosting doesn't build bridges, it actually builds walls.
So, there you have it. Isolation and prejudice. Two huge problems. And these two lessons from the road, they weren't just stories. No, they became the core mission. They were the problem statement that Servas was born to solve.
Right. So an idea is one thing, even a brilliant one. But turning that idea into a real global movement, well, that takes a whole different kind of energy. It takes the incredible, tireless dedication of countless volunteers.
And Bob's vision for this was anything but passive. See, this wasn't just about not having wars. He called it peace building. It was meant to be an active, constructive program. The whole point was to get your hands dirty, to build the foundations of a just, compassionate world right from the ground up, starting in our own communities.
And where did this vision first start to take root? In California. all thanks to the absolutely incredible, unsung efforts of Esther Harland. Get this, living on welfare, she single-handedly built a list of over 4,000 U.S. hosts. And how did she keep track of them all? On little scraps of paper filed away in shoeboxes under her bed. Just amazing.
And from that shoebox, it just grew. It started to flourish, thanks to dedicated teams like the Peace Builders over in Birmingham, England. And then it became official. It was formalized by leaders from all across Europe at the very first international conference in Hamburg, way back in 1952. That's when the network truly became a network.
But you know what's so important? Bob himself always insisted on this point. He would say, look, you can call me the seeder of Servas, but the true founders, those are the volunteers, because without them, there would be nothing. He knew this was never a one-man show.
And that brings us right here to today, to this room. Because now the question turns to us, doesn't it? How does that original, powerful vision continue to live on through the work that we do?
Think about that journey for a second. From a few scraps of paper in a shoebox under a bed to nearly 15,000 hosts all around the world today. That tiny seed that Bob planted, it has, without a doubt, grown into a forest. But that number, it's so much more than just a metric, right? It is the living, breathing proof of the faith that fueled Bob's entire journey. That deep faith in the simple, innate goodness and generosity of people. Every single host today is a continuation of that very first pilgrimage. Every open door is a doorway into the soul of a community.
And so we end not with a neat conclusion, but with a challenge for every single one of us here today. We are the current stewards of this incredible living legacy. So the question we must ask ourselves, the one I want to leave you with, is this. How will we grow the seeds our founder planted and ensure they truly flourish for the next generation? Thank you.